We do know, and you have pointed out, that there are some extraordinary circumstances. For example, Ports of Auckland, I would hope, aren't going ahead with those extensions. I think you've alluded to that. I don't know what the cost of that is. It's a capital cost. It's a substantial sum of money. This is relevant.
Now, hang on. I'll decide that. So just wait.
And I'd appreciate if you do decide it.
Hang on. Just hang on. So just keep focused on what we've got at the moment. We don't know anything at this point in time as to what ports are doing. So let's just not presume anything yet.
Well, I'm just picking up on your comments, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I tried to be as obtuse as I could.
I understand that. We also know, and we indicated in the long-term plan resolutions we passed, that there is a big question mark over regional facilities stadium strategy, and we know that there is a significant amount of capital involved there. We know that it is possible for our CCOs, Auckland Transport, Water Care, Auckland Council Investments Limited in particular, to defer capital. And what we're talking about in this transport targeted rate are not big amounts of capital. In the terms of our overall budget, they're actually relatively small. We also know that if we look at the interest to revenue ratios, we've actually got some room to move. Our revenue could well go up. Who knows, our interest might come down, but we've got room to move in those ratios. I would hope, and it's my question, and the Chief Executive might answer it, can we readdress this transport targeted rate? Is it conceivable that we could find the mechanism to knock it on the head so that we still go ahead with the projects that we all agree with, but we don't need it? And if the consultation process has been robust enough, do we actually need to go out and consult? Because I would suggest we've got sufficient mandate from the public not to have the transport targeted rate. And how quickly could we do it?
Is that your statement?
And does it mean that the rates for the year, and I'm talking about the 2015-2016 year, would not then include the transport targeted rate?
So I think the Auditor General was helpful in her clarity to you earlier. This LTP needs to be adopted and there is not time to alter it. Having adopted it, then the Council could discuss and propose an amendment to that new LTP at some date after the 1st of July. And we said this morning that if it is categorised as being an amendment to the LTP, then you must undertake public consultation to seek the public's feedback, and you would have to you'd have to have the amendment audited before it goes out, and then you would need a clear audit opinion at the end of the process to amend the LTP. We said we think you would need at least 3 months to undertake that process, but it is something that you could contemplate during the 15-16 year, the first year of the LTP, and you would need to, as part of that process, weigh up the costs and benefits of diverting the organisation into amending something that you have just adopted days before. That would be your choice as governing body.
Just in respect of my question, if we did that, could we have a net result for the 15-16 year where we didn't have a transport targeted rate?
I mean, yes, you could fiddle with the rates in that current year. You would have to think about restriking them, for example. That, you know, as I say, you would need to weigh up the costs and benefits of doing all of that for 3 months, and then you'll be backing into the next annual plan process. So you'll be spending so much time planning and possibly not doing a lot of doing.
But just taking this further, given that the transport targeted rate is discrete, it's separate, is it not relatively simple to deal with it. We don't have to, I'm suggesting, visit the rest, the bulk of what we're approving. We were focused on the transport targeted rate.
Through your chair, it all depends on the materiality of it. And if you materially change the council group's financial models, we will have to go through the entire process that we've just been through.
So does it change the whole financial model? Surely not.
What you've got to remember, councillor, is that there are other governing body members who are quite happy with the level of the targeted rate at the moment. So there'll be a debate about what is the level until you secure and nominate and get a majority to vote for the level of the rate. We don't know whether it's material or not.
So work can be done. That's the short. Okay, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just only want to talk about the amendments, so I just want to clarify to make sure that I still can reserve my speaking rights to the substantive motion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So I can't speak, I can't vote for either of these amendments, and it's partly because they go against what Councillor Casey and myself have consistently been arguing in the model that we put up. And it's interesting, Mr Mayor, that you talked about Cameron's this and Christine's this and Uncle Tom Cobley's this, but you never mentioned at all the alternative that Chloe Casey put up that actually garnered 7 votes, and I think possibly there's another couple of votes could be behind it now, so you might want to reflect on that. I can't vote for Cam's nor the Mayor's one for the same reason. Councillor Brewer's amendment there talks about for each ratepayer, so in effect that means he's not wanting to change the composition, he just wants to leave it so that business will still pay $114 net after they claim tax and GST, and the same as a ratepayer. So that is regressive, it's highly regressive against the residential ratepayer, and it's highly regressive against small business. So I cannot support that. And then the same with the Merrill proposal that's up there, and it's not on the screen at the moment. But again, it talks about the level of the transport levy. Not only is levy a wrong word because it is a targeted rate, we should be accurate about this, but it doesn't talk about the composition of that level. So we'd look at the level of the transport levy, which should be targeted rate, but we're not going to look at the composition. So I could vote for it if it changed to level and composition of transport targeted rate, and I could vote for it if it had a new one in there which said we would look at the level of the 16-17 general rate strike, which is presently 3.5 under the Merrill proposal. So that's the rationale. I mean, I've been very consistent that what we've got up there, the way we've composed our transport targeted rate is incredibly regressive, and I would be just looking to make sure that whenever we do review this next year, because yes, I believe it is too late now, unfortunately, we would be making sure, well, I'll be making sure and I'll be advocating to take the pressure off the residential ratepayers. Thank you.
Councillor Clough, thank you. So my suggestion is that you spend a little bit of time making the changes that you've asked for, and then we'll see whether or not, once they come up there, I'm okay with it, but I'm reasonably confident or comfortable with what you're proposing there. I mean, the level of transport levy is basically to open up a discussion that will continue on from the 1st of July. So why don't you make some proposals there which will basically just expand on it and give it some more context. Okay, Councillor Mike.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do want to ask a question, and I do reserve my right to speak later. The discussion has seemed to have morphed into a debate now, but my question goes back to the advice from the Auditor General, and it's a legal question. It's to seek legal advice, and also based on the handout that the Chief Executive has just given us. The first statement is that the council is always required to have a long-term plan. and yet we are told that the present long-term plan will lapse on 30th of June. And yet we have, as you pointed out, the legal right to vote yes or no to this long-term plan. I think there are assumptions being made here because the situation we're dealing with right now is, in my experience, unprecedented. The assumption is that the present long-term plan lapses and therefore we must have another long-term plan in its place. I think that the rationale is flawed here. We presently have a long-term plan called the 2012-2022 long-term plan, not as the Chief Executive has indicated in his paper, the 2012-2015 long-term plan. It's the 2012-2022 10-year long-term plan that was audited and voted on, and that's the long-term plan under the authority of which we act. Now, the assumption is that there'll be a new long-term plan that will take its place, and therefore, naturally, it lapses. But if there is no new long-term plan to take its place, my understanding is it is not automatic that the 2012-2022 long-term plan lapses. It stays in place. So I would like our legal advisor to confirm the section of the Act that says the 2012-2022 long-term plan lapses at midnight on 30th of June 2015, independently of whether we replace it or not, because I don't think the process is an independent one. The 2022 long-term plan lapses because it's been replaced, not independently of decisions of this council.
Through the chair, the relevant section is section 93 of the Local Government Act. Section 93(1) says a local authority must at all times have a long-term plan. Section 93(2) talks about using the special consultative procedures, and section 93(3) says a long-term plan must be adopted before the commencement of the first year to which it relates and continues to be in force until the close of the third consecutive year to which it relates. So the last long-term plan was, the last 3 years expires 30 June 2015.
Can I also say that I'm concerned that in terms of bullet point 3B, the statement is made, if rates are not set, then the council cannot collect or require rates from ratepayers from 1st of July 2015. And then there's a footnote. After 1st of July, if the council has not yet set rates, it can, under the Local Government Act, send out a rates invoice for up to 25% of the previous year's assessment. It would have been nice if that was added in, not put down in smaller font as a bullet point, because that is the fact.